This program is rated 14 plus and contains scenes of violence and mature subject matter. Viewer discretion is advised.
Blue team, come forward.
They had arranged a search party. My gosh, there was thousands of people there.
For something like this, is looking for a clue that says she was here.
Sniffer dog Cody is assisting with the search for 10-year-old Heather Thomas.
If anyone knows where she is, can you please get her to come home? I just want her to come home.
We don't have anybody that saw what happened, which is very odd to have somebody in a fairly busy area on a Sunday afternoon, daytime hours, to just go missing like that.
Let's split up 3 and 3, then we'll try.
People start hearing things. Something's been found. There's a large police presence in the park.
That was the day that really everything changed, completely for the worst.
Welcome to Crime Beat. I'm Anthony Robart. On tonight's episode, it was a typical Sunday afternoon with kids playing outside in a seemingly safe neighborhood in BC's Fraser Valley until a 10-year-old child goes missing. Now, this sparks a massive search with hundreds of volunteers scouring the area in hopes of finding Heather Thomas alive. Here now is Jules Knox with Wish I Could Hold You.
The Cloverdale neighborhood is the historic heart of Surrey, British Columbia, one of Canada's fastest growing cities. Its small-town charm draws in young families. Behind busy streets, kids play in the safety of their homes, like this condo complex on 60th Avenue, known as Clover Park Gardens.
Sunday afternoon is extremely busy. Across the street on 60th Avenue was the Cloverdale racetrack, and they would have a flea market in the open parking lots, probably 150 stalls or so of people selling their wares, so there was a fair amount of traffic in the area.
But across the street, the green grounds of Clover Park Gardens felt tucked away from traffic. And on this mid-fall afternoon of October 1st, 2000, the yard was full of children's laughter until it wasn't.
Heather and her brother Chris were playing. They were scheduled to go back to Mom Jody in Newton at around 5:30 that day.
10-year-old Heather Thomas and her little brother Chris had been visiting their dad for the weekend.
So around 4:30, both kids went out to play in the complex. Heather had already packed her knapsack and had left it by the door ready to go. Around 5, Chris came home and said he couldn't find his sister.
They looked, obviously tried to find her at that point, and then realized that Heather was nowhere to be found.
And it's getting closer to 5:30 now, so Dad goes out and he immediately starts talking to other kids in the neighborhood if they'd seen her. Talked to one kid that said Heather had borrowed his bike.
Her father reported her missing, and that was the Sunday afternoon. Police were there quickly.
Police arrived and they searched the complex. Other neighbors were searching.
I got a phone call from my ex-husband asking if Heather would ever run away. And I said no. And then the phone got handed over to a police officer and was asking me things about Heather. Then I had to sit at home and wait, which was hours. I was going out of my mind.
She went playing with another group of kids, and that was it.
They were racing around the complex, seeing how fast they can go. And then when it was her turn, she just vanished.
Yeah.
She took a long time, and then she didn't come back.
Her dad, Pat, went out to look for her. He didn't find her. He did find the bicycle that she had been riding, and that was located a short distance away from the building.
The report at the time was that when they found the bike, the wheel was still spinning on the bike, so she hadn't been off the bike very long.
The kids in the neighborhood were playing a game where they would take the bicycle and see who could get around the complex fastest. It was Heather's turn, and they had found the bicycle just outside, laying on the ground.
The bike has been tested forensically, and there's nothing that we can use on the bike.
And then, of course, there's massive speculation. Did she wander across the street to the flea market and somebody took her there? Or did she wander down over to Highway 176, which is the big access to the States?
I don't know if you're aware, we're missing a little girl in the area.
They did go door to door to every single person in the complex.
Hi, sir. My name is Constable Menard.
They did put up a roadblock going in and out of the complex, so they were searching people's vehicles.
By now, the police had also summoned extra cars and officers. I would say a good 50 to 100 people were out already looking for her.
Heather, we're search and rescue. We're here to help.
Of course, darkness had fallen, and so people were slowly straggling back to their homes, but nobody had found or seen or talked to Heather during this time. There was sort of a despair.
For hours, I would wait for that phone to ring. Everything was out of my hands. I had no idea what had happened to her. I didn't know if she was alive. I didn't know if she was dead.
They had searched Dad's house in case she'd been hiding in there. They'd searched his truck. They were having difficulties reading Dad, and that's the only way I could sort of put it, because he didn't seem to be reacting in what they considered a normal way. There's always the perception that you're overwrought and tearful and raging, and he wasn't. He was extremely calm, and he was extremely straightforward.
You ever think, though, that anyone in your complex was potentially dangerous?
No, never. I mean, there's a lot of kids that live in there, so I mean, this is just a freak thing. Just totally, I mean, that's why I moved to Cloverdale. I thought this would be a nice place to live, you know, quiet town.
I got a page actually around 10:30 at night. The reason we were called is they asked us if we would come in. They were suspicious and they wanted us to interview Dad.
Welcome back. After Heather Thomas vanished while riding her bike, investigators began an intense search for the missing 10-year-old and for potential suspects in her disappearance. We return now to Jules Knox and Wish I Could Hold You.
When Heather Thomas didn't return home, investigators started searching both for the missing 10-year-old and for potential suspects in her disappearance.
We went and talked to Dad at the house. I think it was 12:30, 1:45 before we took him back to our office and did a formal interview of him there.
You look at everybody, and particularly you look at family. I understand at the time the family was fragmented. So you start looking at those circumstances and how could that possibly fit into the disappearance of the child.
Is Heather Thomas's dad your first suspect?
He's always a suspect. Dad is always a suspect. Dad, Mom, close relatives are always at the top of the list. In talking to Dad at great length and going over various things, he had voluntarily let us search the house. He had voluntarily let us search his car.
Pat Thomas denied any involvement in Heather's disappearance. Detectives released him and he returned home. He later joined the search for his missing daughter.
The next day, people, without the call for assistance, they were just showing up. The public were showing up, and they were showing up with their dogs in tow, with their hiking boots on and a walking stick, and they were prepared to search.
Anyone in this world would want to come out and try and find something. I can't imagine for anything in the world what it must feel like.
I was truly shocked to see how many people really cared. They had arranged a search party. My gosh, there was thousands of people there.
Blue team, come forward.
I kept hearing all night how many people were going to be here, but this is absolutely wonderful. I mean, I don't think there's enough good people out there, but I mean, they're all here.
For something like this, it's evidence, looking for a clue that says that she was here.
Sniffer dog Cody hangs off the end of an inflatable boat. Able to detect the scent of bodies underwater, Cody is assisting with the search for 10-year-old Heather Thomas. Dive teams comb ditches and other waterways in Cloverdale, hoping to find any evidence that will lead them to the little girl.
I remember around 4 o'clock yesterday afternoon, she waved to me. I went across the street to the flea market. She was just around here, and she waved to me.
Search and rescue, as well as the RCMP and other agencies in the community, spent most of the night searching for Heather, and so far we haven't located her.
If anyone knows where she is, can you please get her to come home? Phone someone.
But she knows not to talk to strangers.
I've always told her we sit down once a week. I always let her know not to do that. I just want her to come home.
We had 10 search and rescue teams from everywhere from Washington State to the North Shore of the Okanagan.
Heather and her brother were at their dad's for the weekend, and their mom, Jody Aspen, said the last time she saw her daughter was like any other.
I hugged her, told her I loved her. They got in his truck, and she had turned around and waved. She was gorgeous, extremely caring, and she loved animals. She loved her brother. It was her best friend. She loved playing with her stuffed animals, her Polly Pockets, and if you ever went in her room and moved anything, she would know. Everything had a place, and you don't touch her stuff.
This home video shows Heather at age 6, the blonde wig part of her Halloween costume. Today her bedroom is full of gifts, which her mother says will be kept for Heather until she returns home.
We never believed for a minute that she had run away. She wasn't that kind of a child. She was a rule follower.
Honestly, I was really hopeful that someone just took her because they missed their own daughter. I know that sounds stupid. And I thought I'd get her back.
We went to elementary school together. That's me and her and my sister, and we have a cake in the middle of us that we won at our school fun night. She was very sweet, innocent, kind. She had her own style with her necklaces. We used to write each other notes in our diaries and then trade them. The day after she went missing, it was a school day, and I remember the teachers talking to us about it. I was pretty sheltered as a child, like I didn't know bad things like this could happen to people, especially children. I mean, initially I just thought she was gonna come back.
Let's split up 3 and 3, then we'll try.
We don't have anybody that saw what happened, which is very odd to have somebody in a fairly busy area on a Sunday afternoon, daytime hours, to just go missing like that.
Obviously, people that are sex offenders have recently been released from incarceration. You start looking at those right off the bat.
I first run through it all. I think there was over 500 sex offenders in the Surrey area. So that's when we started narrowing it down.
Who's your prime suspect at this point?
We don't have one.
That is what's been bizarre. It really has almost been like this deafening silence around here. There's usually kids playing. There's been nobody. Gorgeous days, there's nobody.
We usually walk home together and everything.
We don't go anywhere alone.
Yeah. It's sad. Yeah.
I mean, it could be you.
Yeah, it could be you next, man.
There was a fence in Cloverdale with the flowers and the teddy bears and the notes of hope.
A lot of people brought flowers and put up pictures. I remember someone had put up a picture of Heather and I told my mom, I want you to take that down because I was scared that whoever had taken her would come after me too.
Today, Heather's father, Pat, joins in the aerial search, riding along in the RCMP's Air One helicopter.
All this area we've covered, power lines all through here. We searched with the helicopter all the way up to the river system, up going north here.
Can you describe your daughter?
Last time I did that, I got upset. I don't know. I don't want to do that again. She's just a sweet girl. I mean, I just want her back. If somebody else out there has her, I mean, send her home.
In my heart, I know she's alive. Pat feels the same way. We know she's okay, but it's been a week now, and she should be at home.
Finally, after 11 days, police have something real to search for. A vehicle similar to this one was seen in the area where Heather Thomas disappeared, spotted in a no parking zone.
We're providing a picture of a similar type vehicle. It's an older model vehicle, late 70s, possibly early 80s, an American type vehicle.
Tips continued to roll in as the days since Heather's disappearance ticked by.
I think by 3 weeks in, we probably had 5,000 tips and at least 70 psychics that were calling in and telling us where she was.
We had quite a few people, different psychics, different people that had reached out, including a close friend of mine, that said she was going to be found in the water.
It was a Sunday. Of course, we had been working basically 20-hour days for a while, so we were pretty tired. And we got a call, I think it was around 3 in the afternoon, and they said, you better come back to the office.
3 weeks later, and you just heard it. Again, tips. People start hearing things, something's been found. There's a large police presence in the park.
Just after 2:30 this afternoon, a male walking along the shore of Alouette Lake in Golden Ears Park noticed a body floating face down in the water and notified the Ridge Meadows RCMP. We now have major crimes investigators on scene as well as forensic identification. At this time, there has been no confirmation as to age, sex, or identity. The investigation is in its infancy.
They had found a body floating in Alouette Lake in Golden Ears Park. Their initial report sounded like the clothing description Heather had at the time. She had a sweater on. She was naked from the waist down. She was floating face down. We couldn't tell for sure it was Heather because of the decomposition, which also led us to believe that she'd been in the water for quite some time. And the water was extremely clear at that time, and under the water was also a Windwell hockey bag. When we pulled the bag out, there was a couple of large boulders that had been put in the bag to weigh it down. We believe she had floated free of the bag at some point in this process.
All I was really told at the time, because obviously I was hysterical as well, was that some hikers had walked by in Alouette Lake and had found a body floating. And they were going to confirm that it was Heather. I cried so hard, I collapsed. Of course, my mind is, why would she be so far away? I wanted to know how my little girl got there. The worst nightmare that anyone has to wake up to.
The body was taken to Royal Columbian Hospital in New Westminster, where an autopsy failed to reveal an identity. A forensic dentist is now doing a more in-depth autopsy at Vancouver General Hospital.
I remember when they announced that they found a body, and I think everyone knew, like, it was her, but they hadn't confirmed it. And they were going to have a news conference, the RCMP, the next morning, so I got up earlier than everyone in the house and went downstairs and watched it.
The autopsy on the body located in Alouette Lake yesterday has been completed. Through dental examination, the identification of the body has been positively identified as Heather Thomas of Surrey, British Columbia.
I just remember feeling numb. I had already put up a wall at that point. You know, I had a lot of survivor's guilt.
That was the day that really everything changed completely for the worst. It had been bad up until then, but now it was a living nightmare because our search was over.
The first thing I had to do was tell my son. That was really hard. I sat him down and I said, you know, Heather's been gone for a while. Yeah. Well, it turns out a very bad person took her. He goes, okay. I said, she's never coming back, buddy. He's like, what do you mean? I said, she's dead, hun. She's never coming back.
And I can tell you that we'll obviously be looking at whatever forensic methods that we can use to help uncover the suspect in this case.
DNA gets destroyed basically by water, so we weren't expecting to find DNA on Heather. What we were able to do, and it was sort of novel, I had never done it before, but we were actually looking what else we found in the hockey bag, and we found some branches and bush. We ended up getting hold of a botanist in UBC, and he came in and we were able to tie the bush that was found in the bag to it was a juniper berry, a cultured juniper berry, and we were able to find that bush outside the complex of Heather's. So that tied the bag to the complex.
Were you surprised that Heather's body was found where it was?
Yes, I was. I thought it was far more distant than I thought it would be. As the crow flies, it's about 20 kilometers. As you had to drive, though, in those days, you had to go across on a ferry, or you had to drive around through Coquitlam, and I think it was 40 some odd kilometers in total. It was a huge break for us. The finding of Heather allowed us to focus on what could the possible connection be, or who could possibly be connected to both places.
For 3 weeks, it was the Fence of Hope. Now it is a makeshift memorial for murdered 10-year-old Heather Thomas, who was last seen riding a bicycle only meters away.
I am very scared and sad about this. I am 10 years old and it could have been me.
It was the hardest thing I've ever witnessed. It was devastating, and it was also so very, very maddening.
There was a dispatcher sitting at home watching the news that night as it broke of Heather's being found. As a dispatcher, one of the areas that she controlled was the Alouette Lake, Golden Ears Park area. And she started racking her brain. Did we have any calls back then? It wasn't the day that Heather disappeared, but the day after. She thought she had got a call about a suspicious vehicle in Golden Ears Park. They discovered that the vehicle had not only been seen once, it had been seen like 3 or 4 times during this early morning of the 2nd of October, so a day after Heather went missing.
There's hardly anybody in there at that time of the morning. And in particular, a lowrider type young kid's car. Yeah, we checked those things out.
They saw it as they were going to work in the park early in the morning, so like 6 or 7 in the morning. They described the vehicle as a big sort of boat-like vehicle, old school style.
The description appeared to be similar to the vehicle that police were already looking for, the one that had been parked suspiciously in Heather's complex.
We then learned that another employee had seen the car too, parked on the side of the road, and the hood was up. And then a third employee saw the vehicle again quite some time later, parked at the boat ramp. They dig through and find the logbook. In the corner, written at an angle, it was a license plate number. And the license number was DRE 666, which if you're into Satan at all is a significant number.
Welcome back. After the body of 10-year-old Heather Thomas is found in a wilderness park, investigators get a break in the case. Park employees recall a suspicious vehicle seen in the area around the time she disappeared. We return now to Jules Knox with Wish I Could Hold You.
We then had a plate number for this vehicle. So that got us off and running. We ran the plate, obviously. It came back to a Vernon address, came back to a Shane Ertmode. On the 2nd of October, he had renewed his driver's license, and his new driver's license showed the address of the complex in Cloverdale.
That's a huge break.
Yeah, it's huge, yeah.
Had Shane Ertmode already been interviewed by police?
Yes, in our neighborhood inquiries where we had actually knocking on every door, we had actually talked to Shane Ertmode at that time. I think he had indicated he'd been at the movies. No criminal record. So what we had was suspiciously driving in Golden Ears Park on the day after, and we had him living in the complex. Yeah, he's a good suspect, but we have no evidence.
As homicide detectives started investigating Shane Ertmode, they reviewed his file and saw that he'd reported a break-in at his condo the day after Heather disappeared.
The thing that we took from it, I interviewed the ident officer at the time. He couldn't find anything inside in terms of forensics, but he did find a pile of clothes sort of dumped in the middle of the living room that hadn't been moved.
Perhaps the contents of a hockey bag that was emptied to carry a body. Police didn't know. And Shane Ertmode wasn't a suspect when officers had responded to that break-in 3 weeks prior.
Why do you think Shane Ertmode called in that break and enter?
My guess is he was worried about Heather's fingerprints being found in his apartment. There's a big push, we'll just go arrest him. We can't, we've got nothing. If he doesn't tell us anything, we're done. We had to put Shane under 24-hour surveillance. We could probably do it for 2 weeks with resources we had. We ended up getting what we call general warrants, which allowed us to surreptitiously enter into his condo. So we were able to dress up 3 or 4 forensic guys looking like construction workers, and we were able to go into his apartment. Inside a desk drawer, he had all his receipts. But over to the side, he had 2 receipts that were sort of separate from the rest. And they were both for October 1st. One was for the Happy Face gas station, and the other was for the Colossus movie theater. So that struck us like, why has he got these separate?
Police knew from their surveillance that Shane Ertmode was into cars. In fact, he'd done this interview with CHBC News in 1998, 2 years before Heather was murdered.
Don't be afraid to cover your ears.
At the time, Ertmode was living in Vernon and speaking out against the city's new bylaw targeting car stereos and loud music.
Feels good, you know, like you can feel it all over your body, and your body shakes, and people like music, and so it's a good way to relax. Yeah, these are 2 12-inch subwoofers. They're powered by the big amplifier right there.
Shane Ertmode now had a different car, a 1971 Chevy Impala. police had it towed from the complex, and they watched as their murder suspect then reported his vehicle as stolen.
We wanted to look inside his car, and we wanted to do it without him suspecting. When we got in the forensic bay and we popped up the trunk, it was full of hydraulics. There's no way he could have fit her in here.
But detectives remembered that the park ranger had seen the hood up.
So we popped open the hood. There was a marking that seemed to fit the size of the hockey bag, like a scraping inside the thing. And we proved you could fit somebody in there.
An estimated 1,500 people poured into the Valley View Funeral Home in Surrey. Adults, children, classmates, and family. They came to pay their last respects to murdered 10-year-old Heather Thomas.
I had a letter that was written that I wanted to have read out, and one of the pastors read the letter for me.
My dearest Heather, from the moment I knew I was pregnant with you, I knew I had been blessed with a very special gift. Your precious life was taken from us, and we will never be able to watch you grow up. Anyone who was blessed with knowing you has been touched by a real angel.
And then when we were taking Heather down to where we laid her to rest, everybody outside, all the way, everyone outside had lined the road all the way down to where I laid her to rest. It was incredible.
On November 3rd, 2000, a month after Heather Thomas was abducted and murdered, police moved in on Shane Ertmode.
Hey, Shane Ertmode, step out of the vehicle, please, and with the RCMP. Right now, I'm arresting you for, and you will be charged with the murder of Heather Lynn Aspen, aka Heather Lynn Thomas, on or about the first day of October 2000, at or near the city of Surrey, British Columbia. Do you want to call a lawyer?
I guess so, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Is this a joke?
Fun.
This is a joke, man. This is not very funny. Assuming that I'm under arrest.
Not Shane, no. Yeah. No. I've known him and seen him grow up. No, it can't be. It can't be.
As far as I'm concerned, he seemed like just a regular kid next door.
Word of Shane's arrest has spread throughout the neighborhood, and everyone says they're completely shocked. He used to work on his car, and when he'd drive by the neighbors, he'd wave at everyone.
It's scary, because he doesn't fit any sort of a picture like that.
Shane, this investigation is over. Look at me. There's absolutely no doubt in my mind that you caused the death of Heather Thomas, okay? Now, having said that, I'm still the guy that wants to hear the truth.
And it was about 3.5 hours in, that Shane confessed.
Had you planned this out in advance, or was it just like it just happened? It just happened? I'm glad you told me that, Shane. I'm so proud of you right now. I'm so proud of you. It's okay. Did you feel bad after? Yeah? Suicidal? You felt suicidal?
Heather was lured to his apartment to talk about birds. Heather loved animals. Heather was trusting, she was kind.
She came into my place. Yeah. And started talking. And before I knew it, it was over, it was done. Yeah. I didn't know what I was doing. Yeah. And then I panicked.
He enticed her in with the bird story. He got her on the floor.
Did you just want to get close to her and hold her? Yeah. Yeah. And she wouldn't let me. She wouldn't let you? Okay. And then what happened? It's like panicked. You panicked? Yeah. You hit her? Did you hit her, Shane? No, I didn't hit her. What did you do? What did you do? It's okay. Strangled her. You strangled her? Did you use a rope or did you just use your hands? Hands. Your hands? Did you like rip at her, or was it just soft strangulation? Just soft strangulation?
He had pulled her pants and underwear off, was trying to rape her. He had covered her mouth.
Were you throwing her around violently, or were you just holding her?
Just holding her.
Okay. And then what happened?
Before I knew it, she was dead. I didn't mean to hurt her at all. I don't mean to hurt anybody.
And then he methodically put her in a hockey bag, a sports bag, which to this day I cannot look at a sports bag without it triggering absolute horrific memories in my mind.
Where did you hide her when you went to get your alibi set up?
In my car.
He came out through an entrance where he ran into the juniper berries.
Pulled around to the back of the complex. She did have a burn mark on her body from being underneath the hood of the car, I was told.
He had to get rid of the body. So he was driving along and he decided to try and create an alibi. And there was a big theater, multiplex theater called Colossus in Langley. And he decided to drive in, buy a movie ticket.
One of the receipts found set aside during that secret search of Shane Ertmode's home was for a ticket to a showing of The Exorcist.
The Colossus is a reasonably new theater, it's very modern, and it had surveillance cameras. And they had evidence and video of him walking into the lobby of this large theater, buying a ticket in a machine, and walking out.
Then he went to Golden Ears and out to the park, and he put her in the bushes. He then drove back, spent the night, went out the next morning. He was convinced by this time that he had to move her, that she wasn't in a good spot.
The day after Heather disappeared, an officer checking license plates clocked Shane Ertmode leaving his condo complex at 5:30 in the morning. Police believed that Shane Ertmode went to Golden Ears Park to move the body, but ran out of time and rushed to work. A couple hours into his shift, he complained of a headache and left.
Went to, I think it was a Canadian Tire store, and bought an inflatable raft. Drove back. He takes her to the boat ramp, where he was seen again by the park staff. Puts her in the dinghy and paddles out into the middle of the lake and dumps her into the lake.
So Shane Ertmode had Heather's body out of the apartment complex, likely before anybody even knew she was missing.
Yeah, within 20 minutes of killing her, which would have happened within that hour.
Despite his lengthy confession, when Shane Ertmode's case went to court, he pleaded not guilty.
Welcome back. After an hours-long interrogation, Shane Ertmode confessed to killing Heather Thomas. But in court, he pleads not guilty. We return now to Jules Knox with a conclusion of Wish I Could Hold You.
Some of those first appearances at court were pretty crazy. A lot of protesters, a lot of people demanding changes in the justice system, capital punishment, take your pick. There were a lot of people standing outside that courtroom demanding justice.
Did Shane Ertmode take the stand?
Yes, he did, and he said he didn't do it.
All I know is he did confess to doing it on the tape. And that's what I'm going by.
I believe Shane is innocent, and so does the rest of his family. We'll know as the case progresses. This is the first opportunity that we've had to hear his side of the story.
The jury watched the interrogation video, although parts of it were held back.
Started to scream, put my hand over her mouth and I guess over her throat, and she was dead.
The defense told the jury that the search warrant police had when going into Ertmode's apartment specified exactly what police were looking for: hair and fibers belonging to Heather Thomas, her fingerprints, any biological trace evidence that she was recently there. On all counts, police found nothing.
The Crown is suggesting that he's a brilliant character who managed to perfectly cleanse his car and sanitize his apartment, do everything correctly, but yes, I would be surprised that nothing would be found there had he done it.
The defense went on to paint a picture of an elaborate and highly sophisticated police operation aimed not at getting the truth, but at getting a confession.
He made a decision in a moment of panic. They knew that he would collapse under pressure.
I think that he should be found guilty, but that's not up to me. That's up to the judge and the jury.
It took the jury only 5 hours to find Shane Ertmode guilty of the first-degree murder of Heather Thomas. Upon hearing the verdict, he told the court, "I had the chance to tell the truth, and I did. Justice has not been served today. The only thing that happened here was a fundamental miscarriage of justice."
Automatic sentence is life and no chance of parole in a first-degree murder conviction for 25 years.
It's exactly what we wanted. It's exactly what he deserved. It's never going to bring my daughter back, but this is what he deserves. And I hope that she haunts him till the day he dies.
With the trial over, we can now tell you Ertmode admitted to having an unhealthy attraction to little girls, but it was never shown to the jury because it was ruled too prejudicial.
Not too long ago, I went to a mental health clinic in Vernon.
You told him that you were sexually attracted to young girls?
Yes.
And what did he tell you to do?
To masturbate more and more and more.
Now, did he tell you to think about children when you were masturbating?
Yes.
Okay, and you thought that would help you get the urges out?
Yes.
And did that help?
No.
It's also come to light today that the police had a file on him. In the late 1990s, while Ertmode was caring for a friend's young children, he went into the kid's bedroom and lifted a 10-year-old girl out of bed and placed her on the floor. The girl later told police that Ertmode did push-ups on top of her. Ertmode was never charged with sexual assault, and his urges went unchecked.
I never for a moment thought that we would be subjected over and over to him constantly asking for rights that he did not deserve and still doesn't.
I mean, I never thought that there would be a possibility of parole ever. I just figured a life sentence meant that.
In 2021, Shane Ertmode was granted escorted temporary absences from prison for community service.
Every year, I write an impact statement saying why he should never be allowed out to do this again. You write it and you rewrite it. You have to relive it. She always had a smile for everyone. Her eyes are so bright. This is what she felt were her biggest treasures.
Shane Ertmode applied for day parole, and in January of 2025, Heather's mom, Jody, attended the hearing. For the first time since his trial, she came face to face with her daughter's killer.
This is the first time I got to read my impact statement so he would see me. And I really felt that was very important. I think he finally, for once, heard me after 24 years. To actually hear him admit to all of us in the room, yes, I killed her. I needed that.
Shane Ertmode was denied day parole. He'll be eligible for full parole in November of 2025 when he's 47 years old.
I did this for my daughter. This is all for my daughter. We won this one and we're gonna keep fighting, baby. I love you. Wish I could hold you. My brother misses you. Do you have a nephew? Which you already know, I'm sure. I miss you so much. It's not fair. I was supposed to watch you grow up.
Heather Thomas is memorialized by 2 benches outside her elementary school, where her friends and family can sit and remember the 10-year-old whose life was taken far too soon. Thank you for joining us tonight on Crime Beat. I'm Anthony Robart. Want more episodes of Crime Beat? Listen to the Crime Beat podcast now for free on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you find your favorite podcast. And for past episodes of Crime Beat, go to the Global TV app, visit globaltv.com, or check out our Crime Beat YouTube page.
When I moved to Hoboken about a dozen years ago, it just struck me just how friendly and how small town it felt. So what you see behind me here is the actual location for Lily Bloom's flower shop in the film It Ends With Us. A scout reached out to me and said that they were interested in seeing if it would work for an upcoming film. So I was going through the contract and I was showing it to my wife, and when she read the title, It Ends With Us, she froze. She actually picked up the book off the bookshelf.
More than 3 years on the New York Times bestsellers list, that's a long time.
Can you turn this way? Justin, right here?
The movie came out in the summer of 2024. Social media noticed that Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni were not doing any press together. For a movie where they are the co-leads.
It ends with us.
It ends with us. It ends with us.
It ends with us. It ends with us.
It ends with us.
It Ends With Us is about domestic violence, but the message of the film has been clouded because of the scandal around its stars.
She claims that there was sexual harassment on set.
Maybe this guy isn't the guy that you think he is. And then a big jaw drop moment.
He claims civil extortion, defamation, and that all of this really is about her wanting to have control of the movie.
Is Blake Lively a victim? That is the question.
This is like the most high school fight that people with millions of dollars can have with each other.
The longer this goes on, the more reputational damage they will suffer.
This isn't just a fluffy celebrity feud. The actual story is, I think, a lot darker and a lot more complex than that.
I work on crisis communication plans, lifestyle PR, and strategic public relations. But also, I am a huge Colleen Hoover fan. I've read all of her books. Every single one, probably once or twice. So I'm familiar with the book and was really excited for the movie.
It follows Lily Bloom, who moves to Boston to fulfill her dream of opening a flower shop. After a chance encounter with a neurosurgeon, a relationship quickly heats up between the two of them.
On TikTok, certain books go viral, and Colleen Hoover's novels, in particular, It Ends With Us, became incredibly popular on there.
A woman got verbally and physically abused and made it out on the other end.
The domestic violence aspect of it is something that really caught people's eyes because it covered the serious topic while still doing it in a way that felt engaging and accessible. And that really gave studio executives in Hollywood a feeling that young people were interested in the novel and that if they optioned it, as Justin Baldoni did, that it could turn into something that people would show up at the theaters for.
I'm an actress. I worked with Justin Baldoni on the set of Jane the Virgin many years ago.
This seems like a good time to catch up on what Raphael has been up to.
I was actually playing one of his girlfriends.
He has in fact been having sex. Lots and lots of sex. With a lot of different women.
He was very down to earth, very considerate. He just wanted to make sure that everything in our scene worked. I started following him on social media and just kind of kept up with everything else that he was doing outside of acting.
Justin has this platform. He did a TED Talk about debunking toxic masculinity.
I don't just want to be a good man. I want to be a good human.
And he started a podcast, Man Enough.
What would the world look like if our boys got to grow up and feel that men were safe spaces and safe places?
In 2019, when Justin acquired the rights from Colleen Hoover, it was really aligned with his brand.
The Ends With Us story first hit my radar when Blake Lively was cast. I covered her casting news. She's a household name. I understand why you'd want to go for someone with a pretty solid commercial track record.
The cast for It Ends With Us has officially been announced, and I am unwell. Lily Bloom is going to be played by none other than Blake Lively. What? And Blake!
Blake's breakthrough role was Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants.
Rule number 11, in the event of an emergency, the pants will automatically go to the sister in need.
And she got really famous with Gossip Girl. She's also known as being Taylor Swift's best friend. And yeah, of course, she's married to Ryan Reynolds.
Evening, ma'am.
Blake and Ryan met on Green Lantern and hit it off. Now they are the Hollywood power couple. She has a persona in the public eye of being fun and fashionable and trendy and all of the things that I think most women really aspire to be.
The fact that Justin Baldoni's name was mentioned along with someone who is a big A-list celebrity, also married to an A-lister, it makes sense why this became such big headline news.
Hoboken being such a small town, word travels fast. When the first day of shooting arrived, people were lining the streets to catch a glimpse of, Hollywood in our small town. The crew from LA put up layers upon layers of wallpaper to age this space. And then they would redo the entire interior once again, and this time transforming it into the flower shop.
Okay, here we go.
Wow.
Yeah.
This doesn't even look like the same shop.
At the conclusion, Justin invited me over. He raised his hands up, and I raised mine to mirror him. And it was just a very special moment to share.
The film premiered in New York City on August 6, 2024.
Justin, right here. Justin, Solo. Justin, right here.
Things felt like they were off at the premiere.
Social media noticed that Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni were not doing any press together.
What is going on with Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni?
Have you heard anything about the rift happening behind the scenes?
For a movie where they are the co-leads, that is highly unusual.
There seemed to be this sort of tension around it, but nobody could quite put their finger on what to make of it yet.
We do have It Starts With Us, so I'm hoping to see you back in the double duty role.
When Justin was asked about the sequel, it was kind of surprising.
I think there are better people for that one. I think Blake Lively's ready to direct. That's what I think.
He definitely alluded to him not taking on the role of director, but maybe alluding to Blake should do it next time, which was a little strange.
I mean, at that point, that's where the rumor mill starts. I saw rumblings on social media hypothesizing that there had been some kind of falling out on set because people noticed that essentially all of the cast had unfollowed Justin Baldoni.
One headline said that Justin Baldoni was banished to the basement. He wasn't even allowed to be seen on the red carpet with Blake and with the rest of his co-stars, and he and his family actually had to watch it in a separate location.
He said I wasn't allowed to be seen, she didn't want me anywhere near her or the rest of the cast, so they ushered me off the carpet and sent us down to the basement.
There are countless feuds in Hollywood between actors, between directors and stars. It's very rare at a premiere for them not to, at least look like they're buddy-buddy.
It Ends With Us was a financially successful movie. It made way more than it cost to film and market the movie. And there was also a lot of hope that the very important topic of domestic violence would be resonating with the masses. That was it. The story began in the summer of 2024, and it was nonstop after that.
During the entire promotion of this film, Blake Lively hasn't been seen with Justin, the main actor and director.
But of course, fans are theorizing, as fans do.
And boom, you have a feud. There was serious beef between Baldoni and Lively.
The treating of this as just kind of a fluffy celebrity feud. The actual story is, I think, a lot darker and a lot more complex than that.
I have been covering celebrities across 3 decades, and I have not seen a story this big, period.
Blake right here, Blake right here.
At the time of the release of It Ends With Us, Blake Lively was getting a lot of negative feedback on social media.
Director? We didn't have one of those for this movie.
It seemed like everything she was saying was rubbing social media the wrong way.
Look at me in flowers, Lily Bloom. It's neoprene.
There were so many strange memes right after and videos about Blake kind of being difficult to work with.
Congrats on the premiere. And congrats on being a fat bitch.
This, I think, really launched this mean girl energy.
People were making a big deal of her promoting all of her businesses.
I'll start here. Okay. And it's dry shampoo, but really, it smells amazing. But
while shying away from the very important topic of domestic violence.
What has been the best part in making this particular movie?
I've noticed so many beautiful crystals on teeth. Is that a big fashion thing?
Using a movie about domestic violence to sell stuff is not a good look.
She was full of giggles and laughter and wanted to promote her liquor brand. Nothing says domestic violence like a bottle of tequila. What?
On social media especially, there was criticism of the way that she would kind of be perhaps a little bit lighthearted during certain interviews.
There was an interview with a journalist that portrayed Blake to be a mean girl. She was quoted as saying it was the worst interview she's ever given in her career.
I'm an entertainment reporter. I'm originally from Norway, but I've been living in the US for 20 years. I watched the movie and it reminded me of that interview I had with her. First of all, congrats on your little bump.
At the time of her interview, Blake Lively had confirmed her pregnancy. So it wasn't speculation, it was just congratulations.
Congrats on your little bump.
I still don't understand what triggered Blake Lively. That journalist was just trying to break the ice.
What about my bump? Christy ends up saying it was the worst interview of all time. There's footage and clips of this interview that are so tense.
Did you guys love wearing those kind of clothes that you...
Yeah.
Yeah.
And working in digital.
Everyone wants to talk about the clothes, but I wonder if they would ask the men about the clothes.
I would. I thought, okay, this is not going well. And from there on, they just basically ignored me.
I love Jesse's suits and how
that's what I'm saying. His wardrobe was beautiful.
I know.
This Kirsty Flaw interview had never been shared publicly before. That's why it went super viral.
Mic drop. Mic drop. Does not even look at the interviewer. It is so pointed.
It got a ton of attention, and it definitely did not help Blake Lively.
On December 20th, Blake Lively files a complaint. It broke headlines.
Blake Lively shocking Hollywood with a new explosive legal complaint about what she says was happening behind the scenes of her film, It Ends With Us.
Actress Blake Lively accusing It Ends With Us co-star and director Justin Baldoni of sexual harassment
According to Blake Lively, back in May of 2023, things happened with Justin Baldoni that made her feel uncomfortable, and she says that she reported it.
There was a meeting where they agreed upon a document of protocol that should be enforced on set, that Blake says is directly in reference to concerns that she had raised. It is very specific.
Blake Lively says she included items that she and Wayfarer Studios and Justin Baldoni all agreed in a production meeting. They're really specific items that allude to verbal or physical sexual conduct that occurred.
She says that Justin would repeatedly walk into her trailer unannounced while she was either breastfeeding, pumping, or in a state of undress. She alleged the intimate scenes would be improvised and done over and over again, more than was typically required on such a set.
These items seem to fit under sexual harassment. And when they go back to recording, Blake Lively says, I don't want these things to happen again. Basically, this was making me uncomfortable.
It repeatedly says the phrase, no more doing of this kind of behavior.
There was actually a signed agreement between the parties not to have it continued. How could you not agree? I mean, it's so obvious that you cannot do that in a workplace.
Something that was upsetting to me is that this is one of the few very popular movies that deals with domestic violence.
What are you doing? Stop. Stop. What are you doing? What are you doing? Stop. Stop.
It's the core plot point. To have these allegations saying one of the major creative forces behind this was actually engaging in misogynistic content himself, it's pretty upsetting.
What made part of these allegations so shocking was that Justin Baldoni has a podcast where he talks about how men can be allies to women and how men can be better in their relationships to women.
If you know the film and you've been following along and read the book, how could he do this? I mean, how could he do this?
Several of the key players involved in the making of It Ends With Us, Colleen Hoover to one of the lead actors in it, Brandon Sklenar, have all come out publicly supporting Blake Lively. Brandon Sklenar shared a post directing people to read her complaint, including a little heart emoji and tagging Blake Lively.
I saw social media sentiment shift more in favor of Blake than it had been, certainly.
You know, if you read the complaint, I think she had very valid reasons why she wouldn't want to show up to work in an environment like that.
She's not doing this because it's fun or it's going to get her anything. She's doing this probably because she has daughters at home and feels the need to stand up for what she went through.
Literally a day after, you see this complaint come out. The New York Times rolls out the big headline.
My initial response to the explosive New York Times article was shock.
This New York Times article comes out that alleges this whole campaign was orchestrated against her by Justin and his PR team to make her seem like a bad person.
The New York Times reported Blake Lively in her complaint says that Justin Baldoni hired not only his PR person Jennifer Abel, but a crisis management person, Melissa Nathan, to orchestrate a smear campaign against her.
There were comments saying, we're gonna bury Blake Lively.
The second part of her suit alleges that at least part of the negativity that we saw that summer towards her was orchestrated by people working with Justin Baldoni to be able to cover their tracks should she come public about experiencing alleged sexual misconduct.
If this happened, Really, they did a genius job on the front end of building up this database of unsavory narrative towards Blake.
These PR dark arts were getting exposed. Something that's always been behind the curtain, something that you don't really see, but you understand is happening.
Just the sheer volume of allegations that she was making against him, I thought, wow, I feel so bad for her.
You can be one of the most wealthy and successful people in your industry and still face alleged retaliation for speaking up, for making allegations of sexual misconduct. I think is extremely alarming.
So, like, maybe she can be a mean girl sometimes, but when it comes to this film, what is going on with this Justin guy? So all of a sudden, she had some public favor.
Everybody was sympathetic towards Blake Lively, and then things shifted.
That New York Times story was so damning that it made it seem like there was no way that Justin Baldoni could come back from this.
Then all of a sudden, Justin Baldoni then files a libel lawsuit against the New York Times for $250 million.
The thing that really shook me was his lawsuit included texts and emails between Justin Baldoni and Melissa Nathan to show they were not planting stories in the media about Blake Lively. According to Baldoni, the New York Times edited conversations and didn't give us full context, and they didn't give him and his lawyers enough time to respond.
But it's not the New York Times' job to give all sides of the story. You might not like that, but that doesn't open them up to liability. Under U.S. defamation law, Justin Baldoni has the burden to prove that the New York Times lied or knowingly lied and that what they were saying was false.
A quick defense is, let's go after the journalist or the outlet that did me dirty. That's a quick way to get it out in the public.
I think if you choose to go with Blake Lively's claims, which I will say in general I think are credible, this is a story of a man who abused his power on set and alleges that there was a smear campaign orchestrated by people working with Justin Baldoni.
I believe victims should be believed. However, is Blake Lively a victim? That is the question.
And then all of a sudden, after suing the New York Times, Justin countersues Blake for $400 million. I mean, this is a big jaw drop moment.
250 million, 400 million, these are shock numbers. These are there to gain attention. He's saying that she made a false sexual harassment claim.
Unlike any case that I've handled in my entire career, this is the one case we're going to put every single text message, every single document, everything on a website.
Hundreds of pages of legal allegations, text messages, photos. You have the timeline of events. So much information.
Let me tell you, the internet sleuths, everybody was going after what was in that 168-page document.
Justin Baldoni's legal team have just launched a website.
Justin promised us all the receipts and he came through.
He countered her point by point, saying she claimed this, but in reality, here's what truly happened.
And one of the examples he gives is that Blake Lively herself invited him into the trailer while she was breastfeeding, and then later on, she uses that as a basis for something he's done wrong.
Blake Lively alleges that a senior member of the studio showed her a nude video of his wife giving birth. They allege, rather, that no, she asked to see the footage.
Blake Lively is accusing Justin Baldoni of asking her trainer for her weight. So she said that that was fat shaming. He says he has a back problem, and there was a scene where he needed to lift her.
His argument isn't really that those items didn't happen. He just is saying that there's a different perspective, that they were really more consensual. Both sides absolutely want to get their perspective out.
Amongst many allegations that Blake Lively made, she said that Justin Baldoni did not stick to what they had agreed upon when filming intimate moments. Specifically, in that infamous dance sequence. So what did Justin Baldoni do? His lawyer released 10+ minutes of unedited footage that let the public see and decide for themselves what they were looking at.
I think we should be talking. It's more romantic if we're like dancing, talking.
Absolutely.
I don't know. I think it's
Justin Baldoni released the footage to try and make the case that he did nothing wrong. You know, for a lot of people, it did seemingly vindicate him.
I think we have to back up. This is on our marks, and I think the light is
It's a little better when it's blind.
Oh, okay.
One of the slam dunks that Baldoni's team suggests is, well, we had an intimacy coordinator and you didn't want to meet with her. And text messages show, at least, that Blake did not meet with the intimacy coordinator before shooting started. But in her original document, she asks for an intimacy coordinator to be on set at all times whenever she's filming with Baldoni.
I'm an intimacy coordinator for TV, film, and theater. The role of intimacy coordinator is still relatively new in TV and film, and there are certain standards and protocols that we adhere to shooting simulated sex and nude scenes, doing our best to help the director achieve their vision while staying within the actor's comfort. In my experience, when an actor says, I don't need to meet the intimacy coordinator until we're shooting, it does typically indicate that they trust their scene partner, which is a beautiful thing. And those texts made me think that at one point, she did feel a lot of trust with him.
Blake's team then comes in and says, oh no, this is exactly what we're talking about. She's uncomfortable.
I think we should be talking. It's more romantic if we're like dancing, talking.
Absolutely.
I don't know. I think it's more romantic.
In the script for that scene, the description is they slow dance, lost in their own world. No mention of a kiss, no mention of any kind of sexual touch or intimate touch beyond an embrace, maybe?
Blake Lively alleged that he would do unapproved movements and contact and kissing and smelling her neck.
I'm not getting a beard on you today.
I'm probably getting a spray tan on you.
It smells good.
Well, it's not that. It's my body makeup.
Blake says that there wasn't an intimacy coordinator present for certain intimate scenes. From what I've heard, it seems like there were scenes that did not have intimacy written, but then intimacy was added. That video of the slow dance is a perfect example of that.
The dance scene, both sides think it's great for them. So when this goes to trial, that video will for sure be shown in front of a jury, and you'll hear two completely different perspectives on what that video is. But Justin Baldoni said, had Lively chosen to merely write out the self-inflicted press catastrophe she faced in August of 2024, the public would likely have moved on and never known the truth about her. They would have never known that she deliberately and systematically robbed plaintiffs Justin Baldoni and Wayfarer Studios of their movie. Justin Baldoni says in his counterclaim that almost immediately, Lively began inserting herself into the production process in intrusive ways well beyond the scope of her contractual entitlements. Basically, he's saying that she needed creative control over the project and threatening to walk out if she didn't get that creative control amounted to extortion.
There's this one now very viral video of her appearance at a Forbes summit where she was talking about demanding and wanting and needing control of every aspect of movie making.
I wanted to be a part of the storytelling, that I wanted to be a part of the narrative, whether that be in the writing, in the costume design, in creating the character. I actually need to have authorship in order to feel fulfilled.
There is a core scene in the movie. It's when Ryle and Lily meet for the first time.
I once read that maraschino cherries stay in your stomach for like 7 years.
It takes place on a rooftop. It's a very pivotal scene. And Blake has said that Ryan Reynolds wrote at least some of this scene.
So the iconic rooftop scene in this movie, my husband actually wrote it. Nobody knows that, but you know. He's all over this film.
In Justin's lawsuit, he alleges that there was a meeting in Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds' New York City penthouse where he felt pressured by both Ryan Reynolds and Taylor Swift to acquiesce to some of the changes that Blake Lively had wanted to make to the script.
He felt that Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds were coming in to try to create their own version of the film.
Most of us reacted very strongly to the text message that Blake had sent to Justin Baldoni, explaining that she's Khaleesi from Game of Thrones and she has dragons. It wasn't in the message who her dragons were. To me, it was like obvious that it was Ryan Reynolds and Taylor Swift she was referring to. So by saying that, it was like a nicely put little threat, I would say.
I find it interesting that Blake is both framed as this incredibly powerful person who, you know, can use Taylor Swift and everyone in her arsenal to do whatever she wants, but also she needs to rely on manipulating sexual harassment in order to get her way.
Hey, Blake. It is 2 a.m. Hopefully this does not wake you up.
So Justin Baldoni releases this voicemail that he leaves 2 a.m. to Blake Lively, apologizing.
I'm really sorry. I for sure fell short.
It's, you know, he's showing some level of understanding, but it's also, you know, he's admitting some level of fault. So it's kind of, you know, one of those things that you can spin it either way.
And damn right, you got great friends. We should all have friends like that, aside from the fact that they're two of the most creative people on the planet.
What I mainly got from the message was that he was really desperately trying to please Blake. It was like, whatever you say, I'll do.
I'm sorry. You probably have kids all over you and a baby on your boob, and you're listening to me ramble at 2 a.m.
It's 2 a.m. in the morning. There were definitely people who thought it was a little creepy. There's others who say, hey, she texted him right before. This was a justified voice call. But as a lawyer, I think, why release something that it is a little questionable of whether or not that's appropriate in a workplace. Baldoni is claiming that Blake Lively threatening that if she doesn't get the edit, she's not going to maybe appear at the premiere. He was basically giving over his creative control of the film.
I believe that Sony, the film's distributor and major financer, they were scared, in my opinion, of Blake Lively.
The bigger star tends to get backed because at the end of the day, the studio wants this to make a lot of money, and the bigger star is going to draw a bigger audience.
Right here today
If she took complete editorial control of the film, that's not a crime. Who's to say that Baldoni's version was inherently better? I wonder why we're not framing this as a woman potentially experiencing misconduct on set, as she's alleged, taking part in a movie that we know she cares about, and then making editorial decisions that are ultimately for the best of it.
In the end, Blake Lively kind of emerged victorious because what ended up getting shown was the rooftop scene that Ryan Reynolds wrote, and a lot of, her cut we ended up seeing in theaters.
As It Ends With Us is coming out, Deadpool and Wolverine also comes out. We see a lot of cross-promotion and a lot of Blake and Ryan in the news together. Within Deadpool and Wolverine, there's a character called Nice Pool.
And where in God's name is the intimacy coordinator?
Brian Friedman, Baldoni's lawyer, issues a letter to Disney saying that this character is clearly making fun of Justin.
Who are you? Oh, I'm Deadpool. But in here, everybody calls me Nice Pool.
Nice Pool has a man bun, like Justin Baldoni. And he makes references to Lady Deadpool, who is voiced by Blake.
Ooh, we're just getting started.
He even talks about Lady Pool's body after just giving birth.
Oh my goodness, wait till you see Lady Pool. She is gorgeous. She just had a baby too, and can't even tell. I don't think you're supposed to say that. That's okay. I identify as a feminist, right?
So here I am doing my part, trying to be a feminist.
There's so many parallels to what happened in the real world on the set of It Ends With Us.
As part of the lawyer's assessment of this, he points to the fact, well, Lively clearly couldn't have undergone something as serious as sexual harassment if they're making fun of it in a movie. I don't think that's the case. I think people cope with many things with humor.
All of a sudden, we're yo-yoed back to, wow, maybe this is like the most high school fight that we're ever privy to that people with millions of dollars can do with each other. Maybe they're both wrong.
A trial date has been set for Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni to battle it out in court. We now have a date, but it is not until March of 2026.
As of now, Blake Lively has promised to bring forward 2 more women from It Ends With Us who say that Justin Baldoni mistreated her and mistreated them on set, and if that comes to fruition, that would be a big deal for the case.
My professional opinion, Blake Lively has the stronger case because all of Justin Baldoni's arguments about fame and control don't really refute her claim of sexual harassment. Those allegations, the improvising of the kissing, the showing, describing his genitalia, talking about pornography, regardless of where your workplace is, those seem to be pretty strong basis for a claim of sexual harassment.
Even though it seems like a lot of social media is supporting Justin Baldoni, the longer this goes on, the more reputational damage they will both suffer.
You've got to consider that Justin Baldoni might be the problem.
The social media algorithms portion of this is really interesting because you get fed something very personal.
What she is accusing him of is so harsh and so disrespectful.
If you are getting fed a lot of things about Justin Baldoni being a good guy, you're gonna keep getting fed that. The same goes for people that are on Blake Lively's side.
Who wants to trust a man who's made his entire brand all about being a champion for the voices of women?
These algorithms split people apart, and you're never really going to get the other side of the narrative. At this point, it's kind of like a mutually assured destruction.
Ladies and gentlemen, Tina Fey and Amy Poehler.
Even at the Saturday Night Live 50th anniversary special, Ryan Reynolds made a little passing remark to it, a little joke about it.
Ryan Reynolds, how's it going?
Great. Why? What have you heard? People immediately understood they're still in the thick of this. This is still something that is going on.
From a PR standpoint, both of them are going to have a hard time getting the mud off of their reputation. They're both going to have to do some work with great professionals, hopefully, that are going to lead them down the path outside of the courtroom, building back the trust of their fans. I believe for Blake, she needs to be vulnerable. She needs to have a moment where she's a mom of 4. We want to be connected to her and empathize. Like, what woman hasn't been uncomfortable in a workplace? That's a common situation, and we want to support her. For Justin, you know, he has this platform of debunking toxic masculinity. He needs to also, hey, tail between my legs here, guys. I could have done better. That's a relatable moment.
The irony of this whole thing is that the movie was such a huge success, and to have all this scandal around it is kind of sad because it really was a big win for Hollywood. I mean, if you're Colleen Hoover, you have to be kind of fed up with it.
Author Colleen Hoover, who wrote the novel It Ends With Us, wiped all of her photos with Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni, but she still follows Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds and is not following Justin Baldoni. So interpret that as you will.
The saddest thing about this is the message of this movie is taking second place to this conversation about what happened on set.
The biggest loss here is this incredible film that so many people were really excited about, and a topic that really needs to be addressed in Hollywood. At this point, this is basically like the unraveling of a family feud.
In terms of winners and losers, there really are no winners. It's all losers.
The bigger loser here is victims of domestic violence. This movie was about domestic violence. And nobody's talking about domestic violence. The other sad thing is that there is an allegation of sexual harassment on a domestic violence set, and the whole public seems to have decided whether or not that's true long before the evidence has even been introduced at trial.